Well, hi again. There. I'm so sorry that I have done again the thing that I promised myself I won't ever do. But these have been difficult times, and still are, and still will be. And I am sure you can agree with me that these times have messed up kind of everyone's lives. It doesn't matter, rich or poor, young or old. We've all had quite a journey this year, and it's still not over. Trying to avoid a bit, I'm talking about the virus. Something quite amazingly I figured out these days that before all this I haven't really given much thought about, and don't worry, I'll include something technical in here too, and it's not what this channel is about, but when times like these come, I feel the need that everyone should bring some little piece of intelligence into the public. The really interesting thing is, I think most of you have heard the really serious, really severe cases of disease. And the thing is, I have asthma, okay? And as a child, I suffered a lot. Then, as daily permanent treatments evolved, I was left with basically just a few allergies and being very sensitive to common infections like the cold and the flu, which is something I will get regularly. There isn't a single year that I don't get some form of the cold, the flu, all the respiratory viruses flying in the air. In the winter I will have it 1, 2, 3 times, even 4 times a year. Even in the summer, nothing too bad, don't get me wrong. It's not that bad. It's just that and I've had a few cases of bosses who didn't really understand this, and the kind of people who say, hey, so what if you're sick and you're still coming to work, right? It's not a fact that I'm terminally ill on my deathbed. It's just that the slightest form of physical activity, including walking for a few feet, can aggravate my symptoms. So those are the times, I get the cold and I get a flu, I need to stay home and just play some games, watch some movies. That's just how it goes. And anyway, I do get them, but don't get me wrong, it's nothing serious. I mean, it may take a little longer for me to recover from them as opposed to normal people, and it may include some more severe breathing symptoms, but not the really bad ones, so I don't need to go to the hospital or anything. But then in the winter of 2018-2019, in December 2018, now that we have been through all of this and we had all the descriptions and all the symptoms and we've seen how this thing evolves, I'm 100% sure that I had it back then. Because if you do a little Google search and search for the worst symptoms, the worst cases that have been, and you search for people who talk about their illness and how they went through it, that was what I had in 2018, bit by bit. Every single detail from the beginning to the end, it was there. It was 3 agonizing weeks with fever, with lungs that get and there's this thing, if I get the flu or the cold, the lungs get filled with pulmonary secretions, the mucus in the lungs that accumulates. But usually what happens is you take the medicines that help you expectorate, help you spit out that through cough, and usually in a couple of days it gets better and you can breathe almost more normally again. No, absolutely nothing worked. I was pumped up with pills. Nothing had, not even the slightest effect. It was like I was taking candy. 3 weeks of this, and excessive. You know that feeling when you force yourself to cough to clear your lungs? It wasn't happening. My lungs were full, hurting. Constant fever. I've had moments with I can't remember exactly and I didn't go to the hospital because my mom's a doctor, and hospitals here aren't really not the kind of place you want to go for everything. I mean, it's if you're dying, you're gonna go there, you know. If not, you're kind of prefer to stay home and hope you get better instead of taking a million other things from the hospitals. Unfortunately, our health system isn't that good. Anyway, I was sure, and sure enough, it was okay because I had my mom and she's a doctor. No, she can give me prescriptions and stuff like that, so I didn't really need to go anywhere. I had blood pressure. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact numbers. I know it was ridiculously low, considering my normal values and basically the normal standard values that it should have. Something like 8 and 6, maybe a 4 there. I don't know. It was. I felt I was gonna pass out at that moment, and a weird feeling like, you know, when you feel the heart is pumping your blood, it was like pumping in the air in vain, you know, and like in an empty space, not doing anything, and yeah, really low. And plus, that's just a mosquito net. The wind's blowing a bit. It's very hard to describe. It's the first time when I felt my entire body just collapsing, dying. Every single organ, like the kidneys, and it's hard to. It was the flu, but not just that, you know, because like it's mostly breathing problems for me. Okay, you have that. If you take some vitamins, you eat well. The rest of the body is doing okay, is doing great, you know. You can enjoy watching a movie, eating some nice hot food, you know, some good food, some grill, some steak, you know. I wasn't able to do anything. The nights were sleepless. There was insomnia. There was a bit of, you know, delirium going on, and the horrible I felt every single cell of my body just dying, just and it was quite scary at 31 years old. It was the only moment when I felt, of course, like everyone, I faced death a couple other times, but this time was the first time when I felt that an illness could bring me down, and such a simple one. Anyway, finally, I got out of those 3 weeks, and then there was a pain left in my lungs. I presume it was pneumonia, and that took somewhere between 4 and 5 months to fully recover. And besides this, the aggressive transmission. I mean, I was moving. To another place, and I was temporarily living with my grandmother. I didn't have much contact with her. You know how old people are. They go to bed at 7 p.m. and I was together with my wife. She worked till late. We had, you know, young people working hours and living hours, and going to bed at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So, and we were trying to, you know, as being guests, and she was old, and we were really trying to be as little trouble as possible, you know, eating cold food instead of using the kitchen and such. So really, really the lowest contact we could have with her, and still she got it right away, and the same severe symptoms. My mother, my wife, everyone in an instant, when I got it, had it, and everyone described it as bad as it was for me. Very, very bad. with almost the same symptoms, the severe coughing and the fullness of the lungs. And this explains why a couple of weeks ago, guess what? I woke up with a fever, cough, filled lungs, and I'm absolutely positive I took it again now. My wife has just programmed for a test tomorrow, and we'll soon find out if she had it. There was no point in me doing the test also, because if she had it, I had it also, so it's pretty clear. She didn't get out of the house for the last, basically almost since this damn year began. So if she had it, I had it. And again, both of us started feeling ill at around the same time. After the fever, I felt absolutely okay. We actually went for the weekend in the mountains. And then when I came back, the same thing. The pain started in the lungs, and I still have it. I self-medicated with some antibiotics I had left, and it seems to have gotten away. I know that antibiotics don't affect viruses, but what happens is the virus weakens your body and then makes it an ideal entry portal for a lot of stuff that are around. So there are secondary infections, and this is why this thing is so severe, because that it drops you down. It basically disables your antivirus and your firewall. Okay, it's like on Windows XP system on the internet nowadays, with no antivirus, no malware, no anti-malware, no nothing. So you're gonna get infected by whatever you come in contact with first. Bacteria, funguses, and all the other stuff that are around us and that usually you are resistant to. That's what makes it bad. And if you already have a chronic disease, there are these millions of things combined together. You have this virus, you have your illness, you have infections with other things from around you, and that's when things go down. And to prove it that I am right, the pain is almost gone. It's still there, and it will be there for a few months, because I already know it. So yeah, that's my story. By the way, this is my balcony garden. Treat this thing seriously, as the authorities and the smart people tell you, because this is serious. Okay? I had it again, I lived through it. This isn't the case. Think of your grandparents, think of your loved ones that might have illnesses, think of your parents. I don't know, these are the kind of things. It's not about us, it's not about you, this thing. I know you will be fine, I will be. But let's get out of this modern society of not giving a damn about the others. Because if our ancestors did this, we wouldn't be here. We would be a planet of snails or something. I don't know. 'Cause there were times when people really cared about the others, and that's what brought us today. Not caring about yourself. Where would that lead us? Just and it's starting to show with all the people getting all the riches and the poor is nothing. And anyway, I'm going to the rug. Treat this thing right. It's bad. It's still hurting. Still hurting. Yeah, this was my activity in the quarantine. I bought some seeds, and I got some. Given the fact that I want to move to the countryside, we already have the land. Got some beans, a lot of beans. All these are beans. You can see they started growing. Wow, this got big. They grow so damn fast. You can see where the story with Jack and the beans comes from. Really, really fast development. Also got some peppers here and a few onions. To be honest, the onions didn't turn out that well. And the technical part I promised, and currently have dismembered my one of my car doors. I'm starting to, you know, there are all kinds of things screeching and cracking and popping, you know, and I want to, you know, kind of re-lubricate everything and kind of try and solve everything that isn't sitting properly, making noises, making fun of me while I drive. And this is an interesting bit. It's the manual crane for the window, and it has this coiled spring, and it had this popping sound while you rotated the lever, and what happened was the bits of the spring were getting caught into one another, and they would slip suddenly while you moved. And it's interesting because I have tried with what do you call this? Is it Vaseline? Jesus, I mean grease, mechanic grease. I tried with motor oil, but incredibly, what worked best, you know, I tried to clean it, degrease it, and then try another one, and they all did the same. And what worked was dousing the spring in motor oil and then applying grease between, and now it's just perfectly silent. You know, you would unwind it and wind it up, and it went like pop, 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 as the pieces of the spring got caught into one another. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. My time's up on the camera. Yeah.